This was actually a major concern, and clearly they were very right. In light of the widely recognized inaccuracy of the original novel, this is a very welcome rendition of this epic story. This series has blown a lot of people's expectations out of the water. Now that is impressive dedication and accuracy. Konnichiwa, Edu desu. Pipin desu. On Sunday, the massively popular FX series Shogun, as you may know, made history and broke records, dominating the Emmys with an outstanding 18 awards out of 25 nominations, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. It became the first non-English TV show to win the Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Drama Series. Hiroyuki Sanada won Best Lead in a Drama Series, becoming the first Japanese actor and only the second Asian actor to ever win the category in Emmy history. In accepting the award, he said, quote, "It was an East meets West dream project with respect. Shogun taught me that when people work together, we can make miracles, we can create a better future together." Also making history, Anna Sawai became the first person of Asian descent to win the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series, highlighting the impact of Asian lead roles, and is part of a trend that I've actually noticed in recent years of more and more prominent Asian and mixed race lead roles in major productions. The premiere attracted 9 million viewers in its first week, which blows my mind considering that it's a period drama set in a foreign country and is mostly subtitled. Apparently before the series was ever produced, this was actually a major concern that was taken into consideration, and it was a huge leap of faith and trust that the quality of the series and the storyline would be enough to draw in the audience, and clearly they were very right. And the thing that astonishes me about this series is that it speaks volumes not only about the production itself, but also about the audience who is tuning in. The fact that they are interested enough in history, and not only any history, but one set in 17th century feudal Japan, and that they value authenticity and historical accuracy and Japanese culture enough to follow a complex plot and read subtitles after a long day of work, or studying, or taking care of a family. I think that's really quite amazing, because this is not really an easy viewing series that you can just kind of zone out and play in the background. This really does require a lot of brain work if you're going to fully appreciate what you're watching to the fullest. In fact, Rachel Kondo, the executive producer of Shogun, who also happens to be half Japanese, said in an interview with LA Times, quote, "We asked a lot from viewers. We asked them to bring their whole selves to the viewing experience, and the fact that they did it means that I feel like we're celebrating something that transcends viewership. It transcends any one individual. Basically, we're celebrating what we can all do together when you set yourself aside and you participate in something bigger." And when I said historical accuracy earlier, of course, as many of you know, it is fictional based on the 1975 novel published by James Clavell, but great efforts were made to ensure that the costume, the hairstyles, the props, the spoken language, everything was as close as possible to the true historical form. The time period in which the drama is set is also quite historical. Michael Thornton, a professor specializing in Japanese and East Asian history, has said, quote, "They really are trying to capture a lot of both the domestic politics and the international relations, both of which are dynamic, historically speaking, at the end of the 16th and into the early 17th century. The show so far has done a good job of conveying an era before fast communications where the connection points that Japan had with the outside world were these very specific groups of people with very vested interests in their own battles. To illustrate that complexity is quite spot on." It has also been widely noted that this series has gone to great lengths not only to correct historical accuracy, but also language being used at those times, as the Japanese language portrayed in James Clavell's novel was largely inaccurate. In fact, in an online article, and I'll put the link in the description box below, James Clavell's novel is described as, quote, "inconsistent, irresponsible, exoticizing, ahistorical, and long-winded." I'm going to further quote the article here only because it's interesting, but please note that I'm just reading this and this is not at all a reflection of my attitudes or opinions on the book. It's just something that I've seen expressed a number of times in online book reviews. So this particular review goes on to say, quote, "Shogun goes beyond simple inaccuracy," and they're talking about James Clavell's novel here. "It also drips with sexism and exoticizes Japanese people, especially women. This even extends to their names. One woman's name is Nyan Nyan, which means meow meow, and another's name is Hanaichi, which James Clavell says in the book means first blossom, but it literally more like means flower one. The women in Shogun are all depicted as or implied to be skilled at sex, which he calls in the book pillowing. They are all also seemingly impressed by the size of Blackthorn's genitals. I can't believe that's in the book. Meanwhile, the men, especially the samurai, are often depicted as casually cruel, cutting down people in the middle of the street and coldly ordering people to commit seppuku on the turn of a dime. Warriors did have the right to cut down commoners for real or perceived offense. However, the real shogunate authorities frowned upon its exercise, frequently punishing samurai after the fact. It was thus not frequently invoked. Again, these are not my words at all, I'm just giving you some background context. And then in light of the widely recognized inaccuracy of the original novel, as well as the inaccuracy and the exoticization seen in the extremely popular miniseries produced in 1980, which I actually did watch as a child, and at the time I did assume that it was an accurate representation of Japan. So in light of all of that, this is a very, very welcome rendition of this epic story. Because to be honest, when I first heard that a new Shogun series was coming out, I wasn't really excited and I was a little bit scared. I didn't want to see what it was going to be like. I really had no interest in seeing it, if I'm being completely honest. But this series, I think, has blown a lot of people's expectations out of the water in a very good way. Even just the attention that they give to the subtitles is very impressive. If you speak more than one language, you are probably very familiar with how inaccurate subtitles often are. You clearly hear the actors saying one thing while the subtitles say something else. But in this series, you hardly see any of that. And I'm going to quote executive producer Justin Marks here regarding the effort that they put into the subtitles. He said, quote, "Too often in movies and TV, I find that we treat the subtitles as an afterthought. It's crazy because you spend all this money and time on sets, costumes, and actors, and then half of the interface when you're watching something that is subtitles is reading these words on screen. We said that this means that it deserves half of our attention if we're gonna do it right, which was a long, painstaking process of translation." Rachel Kondo also added to this, quote, "We wrote the scripts in English, sent it to a team of translators in Tokyo, then it was sent to a Japanese playwright who specialized in period drama. It was then reviewed by Eriko Miyagawa, Hiroyuki Sanada, and then discussed with each actor. They added their flair, and then Justin and I took at least a year to have the spoken Japanese translated back into English so that we could kind of marry or better present what was actually spoken versus what was in the script. Now that is impressive dedication and accuracy." And so I could go on and on about the details of this series, but for today, the only other thing that I really want to point out here is the filming location. A lot of people I've talked to have naturally just assumed that it is filmed in Japan, but as many of you probably do know, much of it was actually filmed right here in British Columbia, Canada. Although some principal photography did take place in Japan and in the UK, the majority of the filming took place in Port Moody and Ucluelet. Producer Aaron Smith said that they had actually searched the world to do this show, and the cast and the crew from Japan were, quote, "quite fascinated and blown away by the resemblance of that spot to Japan." And then when the crew left these areas, they actually reportedly planted a Japanese pine tree in the area as a thank you to the community. And this tree was just one of hundreds of items brought over from Japan, including costumes, jewelry, furniture, weapons, and old feudal armor. Now, I will say that I am still in the process of watching this series, so I can't go into any details of the plot just yet in this video, just my general impressions thus far and other information that I've been able to put together for you here today. The good news is that it sounds like they are set to move forward with 2 additional seasons, and Hiroyuki Sanada and the rest of the crew are already working on season 2, and Justin Marks and Rachel Kondo are already in the stages of writing. Of the second season, Marks has said, quote, "Part 2 is, as second chapters go, kind of a darker chapter." So we have that to look forward to. Anyways, as always, I really love to hear your thoughts, so please do drop a comment below. Let's talk about it, and if you liked anything you saw here today or just want to follow along, please also remember to hit that like button and subscribe. Bye!